Why shouldn't I lie?
Because people live together and depend on each other for their care and safety. It is important that they tell the truth to one another. Lying can cause bad things to happen, and a famous story dramatically illustrates this idea. The story describes a boy who lived in a village that was sometimes threatened by wolves. One day he thought he saw such a beast and cried, "Wolf! Wolf!" The villagers ran to the boy's house with pitchforks and other weapons to protect him from the wild animal. But the boy was mistaken, there was no wolf, and the villagers were glad that he was safe. The people returned to their homes. The boy liked the attention that his cries had brought, however, and thought that he would give the alarm again. He cried "Wolf!" a second time, and again the villagers came running. Again they were glad that the boy was safe. But they told him that he should be more certain the next time before calling them. The boy cried "Wolf!" a third time, and the villagers still came, but not as fast as before. By the time he had called a fourth and fifth time, the people of the village knew that the boy was a liar. They no longer answered his calls, which turned out to be a very bad thing. When the wild beast finally did come one night, the villagers assumed the alarm was false and did not come to rescue the boy who cried "Wolf!" Lying breaks the basic rule of conduct that helps people get along in the world. Treating others in the same way in which you would like to be treated. When you lie, it shows that you care more about yourself and about what the false information can do for you than about other people, who may face problems because of it. Imagine what your life would be like if people frequently lied to you. You would make all sorts of mistakes and be in a constant state of confusion, not knowing what was true and what was false. The world would be a crazy place if people couldn't trust one another to tell the truth. It is especially tempting to lie when telling the truth will get you into trouble. But remember this, lies are usually discovered, which only makes matters worse. All people make mistakes, but lying about what you've done makes the situation far worse. It shows that you can't be trusted. People who are truthful about their mistakes are admired because it takes courage and a great deal of maturity to admit when you're wrong. You will find that when you own up to your misdeeds, your parents or teachers will appreciate your honesty and be much more forgiving than if you had lied about it and later been found out. People appreciate others who are honest because they know those people can be counted on.
How is an alligator different from a crocodile?
Alligators and crocodiles share many similarities and are close relatives, both belonging to the order Crocodilia. Some distinguishing features can help in telling them apart, however. Alligators usually have broader, flatter, rounder snouts than crocodiles. Crocodile snouts are narrow and V-shaped. Both have extremely powerful jaws, but the wider jaw of the alligator has the edge. Another difference can be seen in the way their jaws fit together. In alligators, the upper jaw is wider than the lower jaw, so when their mouths are closed, the upper teeth can be seen outside the mouth, while the lower teeth are almost completely hidden. Crocodiles' upper and lower jaws are about the same width. So when their mouths are closed, their teeth, also visible outside the mouth, interlock. The crocodile's large fourth tooth on the bottom is especially noticeable. Both animals tend to prefer freshwater environments, but crocodiles have a higher tolerance for salt water than alligators because they have salt glands on their tongues that help them get rid of excess salt. Crocodile skin also looks different from alligator skin because crocodiles have small black specks all over their bodies, while alligators have them only around their jaws. These dots are special sensory pits that help the animals detect the presence of prey and sense changes in water pressure. Crocodiles are thought to be more aggressive than alligators, and while that is true for some species, there are several different kinds of both animals, and there are many behavioral differences among them.
What is a star?
Just like our sun, stars are spheres of gases that give off tremendous energy, light, and heat, while the gases that make them may vary. It is always hydrogen that is responsible for the nuclear reactions that power them. Stars also vary in size and brightness. The largest stars, known as supergiants, are hundreds of times greater in size than our sun. Other stars known as white dwarfs can be as small as Earth. The color of a star is related to its size and surface temperature, and can range from red to orange to yellow to white to blue. Red stars have surface temperatures of about 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit, 3,000 degrees Celsius. While blue stars have surface temperatures of 18,000 to 90,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 10,000 to 50,000 degrees Celsius. The term scientists use to describe the brightness of stars is magnitude. A star's magnitude can be difficult to determine just by looking at it. A bright star, if it is very far from Earth, may look dim to us simply because its light has so far to travel. A dim star, on the other hand, would appear quite bright if it is very close to our planet. In terms of stars' actual brightness, as opposed to how bright they appear to our eyes, the brightest stars are also the hottest ones, blue stars. Our yellow sun is a star of medium size and magnitude.
Do people use more muscles when they smile, or when they frown?
Yes, what your parents tell you is true, it takes far more muscles to frown than it does to smile. Smiling only uses 17 muscles, while frowning requires 43.
How many suckers does an octopus have on its arms?
The common octopus has 240 suckers lined up in 2 rows on each arm. Multiply 240 by 8 arms, and you can calculate that this octopus has 1,920 suckers. Its suckers are extremely powerful, and the octopus uses them to move along the sea bottom and to capture and hold its prey. The suckers don't just stick like suction cups to whatever they touch, however the octopus can control what it wants to hold in its grip. And if it needs to swim away quickly, it can instantly release the suction. Octopuses eat mainly crustaceans like crabs and lobsters. The octopus's mouth is located in the center of the skirt, which is the tissue at the base of the arms. It uses sharp beak-like structures and a built-in file, called a radula, in its mouth to tear away the shells of its prey. Octopuses are, in turn, eaten by a number of large fish as well as by humans.
How fast does hair grow?
Human head hair grows about 6 inches, 15 centimeters, every year. During the summertime it grows a little faster, because warm weather causes more blood to reach the scalp, which gives hair cells extra nourishment. In cold weather, less blood travels to the surface of the body to skin and hair cells because it is more important that the internal organs that run the body are kept warm.
What causes diarrhea?
Diarrhea is simply food that moves through your digestive system too fast. It often occurs when the digestive tract is irritated and inflamed by certain foods, or by an infection caused by germs, bacteria and viruses. In an effort to rid your body of these irritants or germs quickly, the special muscles of your intestines move food along faster than usual, cutting short the digestive process. Your small intestines may not be able to absorb all the nutrients in your food, then. And that part of food that can't be used solid waste isn't able to stay in your large intestines long enough to have its excess moisture removed and returned to your body. That is why diarrhea is so watery. Because that extra moisture stays in your waste instead of returning to your body. It is important to drink a lot of fluids when you have diarrhea. In addition, it is best to avoid eating solid food for a while, which will help quiet the hyperactivity of the digestive system.
Why do some animals carry their young around in pouches?
Some mammals, like kangaroos, koalas, and possums, are called marsupials. When marsupial babies are born, they are incompletely developed. They continue developing outside the womb, in many cases living for a time in a pouch. A large fold of skin called a marsupium, on the mother's body. The marsupium keeps the developing baby warm and close to the mother's nipples, where it can feed around the clock on the milk the mother produces. Most marsupial species are found in and around Australia, but several species, including the opossum, can be found in North and South America.
How does my voice work?
Your vocal cords are stretched flaps of tissue located in your voice box, or larynx, which sits at the top of your windpipe or trachea. Your voice box is located in your throat, and if you put your fingers on it while you talk or sing, you can feel it humming. When air from your lungs passes over your vocal cords, they vibrate. Surrounding muscles open and close and stretch the vocal cords, changing their vibrations to produce a variety of sounds. The more stretched your vocal cords, the more rapidly they vibrate and the higher the sounds they make. Sounds made in your voice box are further changed when they are shaped by your throat, tongue, cheeks, and lips, and even teeth, into speech or song.
Is a starfish really a fish?
In spite of their name, starfish are not true fish. They are invertebrates known as echinoderms. All fish are vertebrates. There are actually close to 2,000 species of starfish, and they can grow to as large as 25 inches, 65 centimeters, across. They usually have 5 arms attached to a disc-like body, and they can grow a new limb if one is lost. Starfish have tube feet on the underside of their arms that allow them to move and to cling to rocks or coral. The starfish's mouth is located on the underside of the disc, and some species actually turn their stomachs out of their bodies to surround and digest their prey, including oysters, mussels, and clams.
How do muscles work?
Your brain tells your skeletal muscles to move by sending signals through your nervous system. Nerves in your muscles receive the message and make the muscles contract, making them shorter and thicker. Contracting causes the muscles to pull the bones to which they are attached. But muscles cannot push, so usually a second muscle, following a second message from the brain, has to pull the bone back. A lot of muscles work that way in pairs.
Why is the bald eagle the official national symbol of the United States?
In 1782, 6 years after the end of the Revolutionary War, leaders of the newly independent United States were designing a national seal, an image that would appear on official documents and elsewhere. Eventually these men settled on the bald eagle for the Great Seal of the United States. The bald eagle was chosen in part because it was believed to be found only in North America. The bald eagle was also admired for its strength, its noble appearance, and the freedom of its life spent soaring through the sky. While the eagle became an important American symbol when it was adopted for the U.S. seal in 1782, it wasn't until 1787 that it officially became the national emblem. The bald eagle has been used for the official seals of many states, and it has appeared on stamps, currency, or paper money, and several coins, including the quarter. The bald eagle's head is covered with white feathers.
How do birds know when it's time to migrate?
Scientists believe that in some species, young migrating birds learn when and how to migrate from the older birds in the flock. Experts have also noted that changes in the temperature and amount of daylight seem to trigger a migrating impulse in birds. As the days get shorter and the amount of sunlight decreases in the autumn, migrating birds begin to produce hormones. These hormones cause the birds to store up more fat in their bodies. Fat that can be converted into energy to help sustain them on their long flights. As the time for migrating approaches, birds display signs of restlessness. Some people have even observed such restlessness among captive birds, which have a steady food supply and little contact with outside temperatures and sunlight.
What causes people to pass gas?
When there is too much air in your digestive system, there are two ways to get rid of it. It can exit from the top, through your mouth, in the form of a burp. Or it can exit from the bottom, through your anus, in the form of passed gas, better known as a fart. Some of the gas in your digestive system comes from the air you swallow when you eat, while some of it is a natural byproduct of food digestion in your large intestine. When your intestine encounters foods that are difficult to digest, including greasy or high-fat foods, it produces more gas than with foods that are digested easily. This gas travels through your intestine to your rectum and eventually passes out through your anus. While some may not like to admit it, everyone passes gas several times a day.
Why can't I yell or hit when I'm mad?
It certainly isn't wrong to feel mad about things that happen. You can't help but get mad when your brother breaks your favorite toy or when someone cuts in front of you when you're standing in line. Life is full of all sorts of things that we think are unfair or that upset us. But yelling and hitting is not the answer. When you yell or hit someone, it is likely that he or she will yell or hit back. Someone could get hurt, and the situation gets worse, not better. If everyone yelled and hit when they got mad, the world would be an awful place. Stop and count to 10 when you get mad. That way you can get control of your feelings. Then you will be able to think more clearly. And thinking, not just quickly reacting, is what changes bad situations. Maybe your brother feels terrible about breaking your toy but can't say he's sorry because you're punching him. Instead, tell him how sad you feel and give him a chance to apologize. It was probably an accident after all, nobody's perfect. Chances are you've broken something that belonged to someone else, too. And if you and your brother use your brains instead of your raised voices and fists, maybe the two of you can think of a fair solution. Sometimes even when you talk reasonably to the person who has made you mad, he or she still doesn't respond in a nice way. It is hardest then to control your feelings.
What is the most important organ in my body?
While many of our organs are vital, meaning we could not live without them, the brain is the most complex and the most important part of our bodies. The brain is the body's command center. Everything we do, eating, talking, walking, thinking, remembering, sleeping, is controlled and processed by the brain. Our brain tells us what's going on outside our bodies, whether we are cold or hot, for instance, or whether the person we see coming toward us is a friend or a stranger, as well as what's going on inside our bodies. Whether we have an infection or a broken bone, or whether we feel happy or sad. The key to the body's nervous system, the brain, contains billions. Between 10 billion and 100 billion, of nerve cells, or neurons. Neurons combine to form the body's nerves. Thin cords that spread from head to toe and all parts in between. Neurons take in and send out electrical signals, called impulses, that control or respond to everything your body does and feels. The brain is like a very busy, high-speed post office, constantly receiving messages and sending them out all the time. It handles millions of nerve impulses every second. An interesting fact about the brain: while it is responsible for receiving and transmitting all messages of pain for the whole body, the brain itself does not have pain receptors. That means that, if you could somehow gain access to another person's brain, you could poke it or pinch it and that person wouldn't feel the pain. The human brain is divided into three main parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. The largest part of the brain, about 85% of its total weight. The cerebrum controls emotions, thought, memory, and speech. It is divided into a right and left side, called hemispheres. And each side is divided further into parts called lobes. Its thick outer covering, called the cortex, is made up of a type of tissue called gray matter. The cerebellum coordinates the kinds of movements we don't usually think about. It helps us walk upright and in a straight line, it keeps us balanced so we don't tip over. And it gives us coordination so we can run and play. The brainstem connects the brain with the spinal cord. It controls our body's vital processes, like breathing, digestion, and heart rate.
Why do porcupines have quills?
The porcupine's quills are its best method of defending itself from predators. The sharp quills, which are modified hairs, are all over the porcupine's body, including its tail. When the North American porcupine, the most common species in the Americas, is threatened, it turns its tail toward the approaching animal. If attacked, this porcupine will thrash its predator with its tail, thrusting its quills into the other animal's hide. Often some of the quills will come off the porcupine's tail, and their barbed ends, like a fishhook, will stay embedded in the attacker's skin. The average porcupine has around 30,000 quills. Porcupines are rodents, a group that makes up around half of all mammal species and includes mice, squirrels, and beavers. They are nocturnal, meaning active at night, and they eat tree bark, roots, and other vegetation. Their diet doesn't do much to satisfy their intense salt cravings. So porcupines have been known to chew on things like canoe paddles, animal bones, and even the discarded clothing of humans to get to the salt and oils in these items.
Where do seashells come from?
Seashells are more than just pretty souvenirs to take home from a trip to the beach. Shells are the hard outer coverings, or exoskeletons, of small, soft-bodied, invertebrate animals. Most animals that live in seashells are called mollusks. Some live in the water and others live on the shore. Some mollusks, usually the ones called bivalves, named because their shells are divided into a left and right valve, are delicacies for humans, like mussels, clams, oysters, and scallops. Snails are also mollusks. Seashells are made mostly of calcium carbonate and other minerals found in the sea. The shell is formed in layers when the mantle, a tissue that is part of the mollusk's body, secretes a substance that hardens. Some shells have a glistening, pinkish-orange interior that is called nacre, or mother of pearl. Seashells come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes. Some are curvy spirals, others are spiny. Others are fan-shaped with grooves spreading across the surface and a glorious range of colors. Scientists aren't exactly sure why some shells are shaped or colored the way they are, though they believe certain shapes help the mollusk burrow into the sand or intimidate its enemies, and certain colors help to camouflage the shell from predators.
What is a caiman?
A caiman, also spelled caiman, is a close relative of the alligator that can be found in Central and South America. Like their crocodilian cousins, caimans live near rivers and other bodies of water. Most caimans are around 6 or 7 feet, 2 meters, long, but the largest species, the black caiman, can grow to a length of 15 feet, 4.5 meters.
Which language is the most widely spoken?
It is not surprising that Chinese the language spoken in the world's most populous country is the world's most widely spoken language. Although many different versions or dialects of Chinese are spoken in the country, the standard or official language Mandarin Chinese is spoken in its northern and central regions. It is the native language of nearly 900 million people. Spanish is the second most widely spoken language, and English is third. English is the most common international language, spoken in more places around the world than any other.
Is an elephant's trunk really its nose?
Yes, an elephant breathes through its trunk, or proboscis, which has 2 nostrils through which air can pass. But an elephant's muscular trunk, which nearly reaches the ground, can do several other remarkable things. On the end of the trunk is a sensitive, finger-like lip or protuberance. An African elephant has 2, that can feel and pick up food and other objects. The end of an elephant's trunk is so sensitive that it can pick up a piece of thread from the floor. An elephant can also pick up and carry large things like logs by wrapping. Its strong trunk, which contains hundreds of individual muscles around them. Because elephants are intelligent and easily trained, people have used them for centuries to do heavy work in certain parts of the world. An elephant can draw water up into its trunk and either release it into its mouth for a drink or shower it onto its back. It can do the same with dust and dirt, giving itself a soothing spray. An elephant also uses its trunk to make noise. The trumpeting sound we associate with elephants comes from its trunk.
What are killer bees?
Killer bees are the result of a scientific experiment begun in the mid-1950s, when European honeybees and African bees, which are accustomed to hot temperatures, were brought to Brazil and bred with each other in an effort to create a honeybee that would produce honey in hot, tropical climates. The experiment was a big failure because, unlike the mild-mannered European honeybee, the new Africanized honeybee had an aggressive nature. Quick to attack intruders, the new bees have been responsible for a number of human deaths. The danger of these bees comes from their tendency to attack in swarms. If a person is stung by enough bees at one time, it could trigger a severe allergic reaction. These killer bees have made their way into the southern United States. But the American beekeeping industry is working on ways to correct this experiment gone wrong.
What is a clone?
To understand cloning, we must first understand a few things about cells. All living things, from the simplest to the most complex, are made up of cells. Cells are specialized to perform a variety of functions. There are muscle cells, skin cells, nerve cells, and so on. Cells group together to form tissue. And tissues group together to make organs like the heart, liver, and kidneys. An organism grows and develops through a process called cell division. One cell divides into two. Then each of those two divides again, and so on until eventually, in the case of human beings, trillions of cells have been produced to make up a complete living person. All cells in multicellular organisms contain a nucleus, which acts as the command center of the cell. The nucleus contains all of the organism's genetic material, including the DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, which determines whether a rose will be red or yellow, whether a person will have curly hair or straight. The word clone can refer to a group of cells that share the same genetic material or to two or more complete organisms that are genetically identical. That means that the clone is an exact copy of one of its parents. Whereas we are made up of the combined features of both our parents. Cloning does occur naturally. Simple organisms like bacteria, for example, reproduce asexually. Which means new organisms come from only one parent and share that parent's genetic material. When humans and other animals produce identical twins, those twins are clones of each other, though not of either parent. But the kind of cloning we hear about in school or on the news is engineered by scientists. Scientists have been conducting experiments for years in an attempt to create a complex organism that is a clone of another organism. While they had some success over the years cloning frogs and salamanders, nothing captured the world's attention like the breakthrough scientists made at the Roslin Institute in Scotland in 1996. After 276 failed attempts, a group of scientists led by Ian Wilmut successfully cloned a sheep, named Dolly, the first mammal ever to be cloned. The process used to create the cloned sheep, called somatic cell nuclear transfer, began with an egg cell from one sheep. The scientists destroyed that egg cell's nucleus and then injected the nucleus from the cell of another sheep into the egg cell. With a little encouragement from electronic stimulation, the donated nucleus fused with the egg cell, and the new cell began to divide. The cluster of cells was then implanted into the uterus of the sheep that had provided the egg cell. And 5 months later Dolly was born, an exact replica not of the sheep that had carried her in the womb but of the sheep that had supplied the nucleus. While cloning mammals is very controversial, some scientists argue that it could have many benefits. Under the right circumstances, cloning could be used to increase the population of animals that are listed as endangered species. Cloning also has advantages to livestock farmers, who could use the technology to breed only high-quality animals that produce the most milk or the finest wool.
Why do I dream?
When you sleep, your brain does different things. Most of the time it is quiet, resting with the rest of your body and producing little of the electrical activity seen during waking hours. But every 1.5 to 2 hours, you dream. During dreams, your brain shows the same electrical activity as if you were awake, and your eyes move about very rapidly. That is why this is known as REM sleep, referring to the rapid eye movements. Oddly, during all this brain and eye activity, your body is very still, its muscles limp. Scientists think that this inability to move the body is protective, keeping people from hurting themselves as they respond to what happens in their dreams. In scientific experiments, cats were operated on so that their muscles were able to move when they dreamed. Some began to run and even attack imaginary mice while they slept. If you sleep for about 8 hours, you have 4 or 5 dreams during that time. Dreams usually last anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. So in one night you can spend between half an hour and more than 2 hours dreaming.
How did we get the United States National Anthem?
In September 1814, the United States and Great Britain were in the midst of fighting what is known as the War of 1812. The British had taken over Washington, D.C., and planned to attack Baltimore, Maryland. A few American citizens, including a lawyer and poet named Francis Scott Key, approached the British fleet, which was anchored in Chesapeake Bay, to request the release of an American who had been taken prisoner. The British agreed to let the prisoner and the others return to American shores. But their return had to wait until the British were done attacking Fort McHenry, which was defending Baltimore. Throughout the night of September 13th to 14th, Key heard the explosions of the battle, anxiously awaiting morning to see whether the Americans had won the battle. In the early morning light, Key could see that Fort McHenry's enormous American flag was still waving, indicating that the Americans had been triumphant. Relieved and inspired by the sight, Key composed a poem called Defense of Fort McHenry.
How big were the largest dinosaurs?
Information about dinosaurs changes all the time as new bones are found and new evidence about their surroundings becomes available. Each year, scientists discover around 7 new types of dinosaurs. The dinosaur now considered the largest could be pushed out of first place by another creature soon to be discovered. The largest dinosaurs belong to the group called sauropods. These giant plant eaters include the Apatosaurus, pronounced Apatosaurus. Used to be called Brontosaurus, and Brachiosaurus, pronounced Brachiosaurus. Which weighed around 80 tons, that's 160,000 pounds, or 72,640 kilograms, and stood 50 feet, 15 meters, tall. Among the longest of these dinosaurs were the Seismosaurus, pronounced Syzmosaurus, and Supersaurus. The Seismosaurus may have been as long as 150 feet, 45 meters. While the Supersaurus may have stretched to nearly 100 feet, 30 meters. A newly discovered dinosaur, called Paralitodon, is thought to have been close to 100 feet. 30 meters, long, weighing close to 70 tons, 140,000 pounds, or 63,560 kilograms. The upper bone of its forelimb, front leg, is 6 feet, 7 inches long, close to 2 meters. The Argentinosaurus, thought to weigh as much as 100 tons, 200,000 pounds, or 90,800 kilograms. Was uncovered in the late 1990s in Argentina, which was home to many of the world's largest dinosaurs. These gentle giants were once thought to live in watery, swampy regions. But recent evidence suggests that most of them were forest dwellers who ate leaves from the tops of trees. They had enormous bodies, very long necks, relatively small heads, and thick, tree trunk-like legs, much like an elephant's legs. They moved very slowly and didn't have many ways to defend themselves. But their tremendous size kept most predators away.
How does the internet work?
Just as telephones are connected by a worldwide phone system, home and work computers can connect with a global computer communications network known as the Internet. Each computer that is linked to the system has its own Internet address, as individual as a phone number. Home computer users buy the services of an Internet provider, which is an organization with powerful computers that link all its subscribers to the Internet. Many large organizations and companies have computers that link them directly to the network. Internet users can visit the World Wide Web, which is a global network of websites providing information, entertainment, products, and other services. People can use the Internet to send electronic mail, known as email, to one another in just a few seconds. Once you type a message into your computer to send to your cousin, let's say who lives miles from you across the country, it travels through the wires of your phone line as a series of electrical signals. Or, for some people, the signals travel through the same cables that bring them cable television. These signals travel to a station run by your service provider, where a big computer sends them to an internet routing center. Located all over the world, routing centers link to organizations and internet providers send the countless computer communications that come to them each second along the quickest possible routes to their destinations. A giant computer there reads the address on your email and sends it farther. Depending on the distance it must travel, it may continue along phone lines, be changed into light signals that can travel with great speed along thin glass strands called fiber optic cables, or be converted into equally speedy invisible bands of energy known as radio waves and transmitted to a communications satellite that will bounce it back to Earth to a ground station located close to where your cousin lives. Once your message reaches the routing center nearest your cousin, it will be sent to the station of his or her service provider. From there it will be sent along regular phone lines to his or her computer. And all of this happens in a matter of moments.
What plant makes the largest seeds?
Cocoa palm trees produce coconuts, which are among the largest seeds in the world. Giant fan palms that grow wild in the islands of the Seychelles Republic, located in the Indian Ocean, produce what are known as double coconuts, which can weigh up to 50 pounds, 23 kilograms.
Why do some trees lose their leaves in autumn?
Broadleaf trees like maples and oaks are called deciduous trees because they lose their leaves in autumn. The loss of their leaves prepares these trees for the lack of water in winter. Cold, dry air has little moisture in it, and snow can supply water only when it melts. In addition, the frozen ground makes it difficult for a tree to draw up water through its roots. In spring and summer, gases pass and moisture escapes through thousands of microscopic openings, or stomata, in the leaves. Without its leaves in the winter, a tree can conserve as much water as possible. In autumn, as the days get shorter and the nights get colder, leaves are sealed off from the branches on which they grow, and water and minerals can no longer travel to them. Photosynthesis stops then, and the leaves gradually fall to the ground. The tree goes dormant, which is like going into a deep sleep, without its active food supply. It rests and stops growing, using food stored earlier to survive until spring arrives.
Can an octopus really make ink?
An octopus, so named because it has 8 arms, is generally a shy, gentle creature. But if it is attacked, it will fight back. One method it has of escaping from a predator is to eject an ink-like substance into the water that makes it hard for the attacker to see what's in front of it. Before the ink clears, the octopus has scurried away. Some octopuses, or octopi, can even produce an ink that temporarily paralyzes the predator's senses. Another way for the octopus to escape is to shoot out a powerful stream of water. Using jet propulsion to rapidly push itself away from danger. Octopuses can also quickly change the color of their skin, camouflaging themselves from predators. There are many different kinds of octopuses, and they vary widely in size. The smallest ones are only about 2 inches, 5 centimeters long, and the largest can be 18 feet long, 5.4 meters. The arm span of the largest octopuses can reach 30 feet, 9 meters. The best known species is a medium-sized one, about 3 feet, or 90 centimeters, known as the common octopus. In terms of intelligence, this animal is not so common. Scientists believe that the common octopus is the smartest of all the invertebrate animals. Unlike most invertebrates, octopuses and such relatives as squid have complex, highly developed eyes, giving them the ability to see images.
What are stalactites and stalagmites?
Caves form in huge, thick deposits of rocks like limestone, which dissolves over time when rainwater passes over or seeps through it. As water drips through the roof of a limestone cave, the drips leave bits of mineral behind, causing a stone column called a stalactite to form, which grows down in a cone shape like an icicle. Where the drips hit the cave floor, leaving behind more minerals. A stone column called a stalagmite forms, growing up. One way to remember which word describes which kind of growth is to think of stalactites as holding tight to the ceiling. The G in stalagmites can stand for the word ground. Stalactites and stalagmites can become very large, and sometimes they meet in the middle, forming a single column or pillar of stone. The largest stalactite in the world is located in a cavern in County Clare, Ireland. It measures more than 23 feet, 7 meters, long. The largest stalagmite known to exist is located near Lozère in southern France. It measures more than 95 feet, 29 meters, in length and is still growing.
What is second-hand smoke?
Second-hand smoke is the smoke inhaled by people who are not themselves smoking but who are near others who are smoking. In the early 1990s, the United States Environmental Protection Agency declared that second-hand smoke can cause cancer and other diseases in people who have never actually smoked a cigarette themselves. As the dangers of second-hand smoke became widely known, many laws were passed in the U.S. to protect non-smokers from having to inhale another person's smoke. Some of these laws prevent people from smoking in public or government buildings. Non-smoking sections in restaurants have grown larger and larger, with some restaurants banning smoking altogether. As recently as 10 years ago, many people could smoke while sitting at their desks in a large office. Now such behavior is unheard of, and smokers usually have to go outside to have a cigarette.
What causes a drippy nose?
Several conditions can cause a drippy nose. When your eyes have an extra amount of tears in them, either from crying or from getting something in your eyes, some of the excess tears empty into ducts located at their inside corners and travel down into your nose. A head cold, a virus that can infect your eyes, nose, and throat, often causes swelling and fluid and mucus production in the lining of the nose as your body tries to fight the infection. This mucus then drips out of your nose. Cold weather can also make your nose run. When you first breathe cold air into your nose, it shocks the delicate lining, which constricts and then expands, producing protective fluid and mucus. Your nose eventually adjusts to the cold air, though, and works normally again.
Why is grass often wet in the morning even though it hasn't rained?
Floating water molecules, or water vapor, are always present in the air. The warmer the air is, the more water vapor it can hold. When air cools, it reaches a temperature at which it cannot continue to hold its moisture. This temperature is called the dew point. At this temperature, water vapor will condense, becoming a liquid. At night, without the warmth of the sun, the temperature of the ground and the grass that covers it becomes cooler. If it becomes cooler than the dew point of the air that touches it, condensation will occur. The grass will be covered with droplets of water by morning, even though no rain has fallen during the night. This moisture on the grass is called dew, and it often evaporates in the morning sunlight before we get to see it. If the temperature at night drops to below freezing, the dew will become frost. The same thing happens when the glass filled with a cold drink sweats on a warm summer day, or when your eyeglasses fog up as you come indoors from the cold.
What is quicksand?
Quicksand is regular sand into which water is forced from below. Usually an underground spring supplies the water that pushes up into a deposit of sand. The extra water makes it so the sand particles don't hold together as well, and they become unstable to walk on. Quicksand is like a thick soup of sand and water. It isn't as watery as a puddle, but isn't as firm as regular sand either. A large person or animal that strays into quicksand, which often looks deceptively dry on top can sink quickly, even disappearing under its surface. Deposits of quicksand are rare, and they usually aren't very deep. If you do find yourself sinking into the muck, try to hold onto something solid and pull yourself out. Or lie on your back with your arms out as if you were floating in water and wait for rescuers to come. It's easy enough to float in quicksand if you stay fairly still. Struggling to get out, on the other hand, only makes you sink faster.
Why do I have to eat?
Food and drink provide the energy that your body needs to function and the materials required for growth and repair. People can't live without food and drink for very long. A healthy diet requires a certain amount of 6 different substances: proteins, carbohydrates, fats, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. In addition, water is required to keep body processes running smoothly. Proteins, found in meat, fish, eggs, dairy products, peas, beans, and grains, are required for the repair, replacement, and growth of body tissue. Carbohydrates, found in bread, pasta, potatoes, and cereals, are good sources of quick energy for the body. Fats, found in many animal and plant foods, like meat, eggs, and nuts, also provide the body with energy and are sometimes used for growth and repair. Vitamins are chemicals that the body needs to function well. Minerals are metals and salts that the body also needs in tiny amounts to run. Different foods, like vegetables, contain different amounts of vitamins and minerals. So it is important to have variety in your diet so you can get a good balance. Fiber or roughage, parts of plant foods that the body can't digest, is important for the proper working of the digestive system. It provides the bulk that digestive muscles need to grip onto as they push food along and carry away body waste. Water is also a very important part of a healthy diet. An adult's body loses about 4 pints, 2 liters, of water every day through urine, bowel movements, sweat, and the moisture in exhaled breath. Those fluids need to be replaced by drinking water, or other healthy beverages. And eating food, water makes up about 70% of the food we eat. An individual can survive weeks without food but only 4 or 5 days without vital water.
What's so funny about that?
The funny bone got its name from the bone located above it. The humerus, sounds like humerus, bone in the upper arm.
What did dinosaurs eat?
Dinosaurs came in many different shapes and sizes, and they also had a variety of diets. Most dinosaurs ate plants, with the very large dinosaurs eating leaves from the tops of trees and smaller ones eating plants and bushes growing close to the ground. Some dinosaurs were meat eaters, with most hunting other animals for food. And some being scavengers who ate the flesh of dead animals they encountered. The hunters preyed on plant-eating dinosaurs and even on each other. Smaller meat-eating dinosaurs fed on other animals, like insects, lizards, and mammals. Evidence suggests that some dinosaurs hunted in packs, while others lived solitary lives.
Do all plants have leaves?
The simplest types of plants, like algae, don't have leaves. But they do have chlorophyll in their cells and make their own food through photosynthesis. Using sunlight, water, and minerals. Mosses have leaf-like structures that carry out photosynthesis. But they are not true leaves because they don't have the special tissues xylem and phloem that distribute food, water, and minerals throughout most plants. The lack of a transportation system is the reason that mosses are so tiny and low to the ground. More complex types of plants have leaves. Leaf shape is often determined by conditions in the environment. Usually, where sunlight and water are plentiful, leaves are flat and broad, providing a large surface area where photosynthesis can take place. Where weather is cold and dry, however, water loss can be a problem. The long, needle-shaped leaves of conifer trees, including pines, for example, help retain water, allowing the plants to grow in very dry, cold places, far north or high in the mountains. The extreme environment of the desert, intensely hot and dry, has brought about other special leaf adaptations. Many desert plants have fleshy leaves and stems, in which they are able to store large amounts of water. Over millions of years, the leaves of desert cactus plants became so small to restrict water loss through transpiration that on many only sharp spines remain. The thick-skinned stems or branches of cactus plants now do the job that leaves do for other plants, making food through photosynthesis.
How do clocks and other things glow in the dark?
When a substance is exposed to light, it absorbs light energy. The molecules of most substances usually release this excess energy in the form of light and heat, but do it so quickly that the process can't be seen. Some substances, like calcium sulfide, however, are able to store a portion of the light to which they have been exposed, releasing it a bit at a time. This characteristic is called phosphorescence. Other substances can be added to phosphorescence to increase the amount of time that they can store light. Because the ability usually fades over time. Glow-in-the-dark toys and paint used on clock and watch dials are made of phosphorescent materials. while their slow-releasing light is not detectable during the day. It is very clear at night, when all is dark. Without light exposure, though, phosphorescent things won't work. Because they can't store light energy to release.